we are super excited to have you here. We also hope that you are enjoying your summer and just building in some design and make learning and piece learning into your summer. So we'll get started with the formal program in a minute, but it's going to be a little bit less formal today. It'll be a smaller group. This will also be recorded if you're an educator and you want to share the recording with your students. But again, so my name is Kellyanne Mahoney. I am on the education team at Autodesk, and we are super excited for you to be on this journey with us, powering up and learning about Revit and design at the same time. So I'm going to pass it. I don't know, Paulette, did you have anything to say to the group before we pass the mic to
No.
Tyler?
Thank you so much. Again, just a reminder, this is brought to you by a wonderful partnership that we have with ACE and Autodesk, trying to introduce as many students as we can into, all the Autodesk features. So, and like Kellyanne said, this will be recorded and to be used for many years to come. And with that, I will turn it over to Tyler.
All right. Awesome. How's it going, guys? Yeah, I am going to share my screen here in a sec. And
Also, not to interrupt you, Tyler, but Paulette and I will be here too, monitoring the chat. So this is a small group. So if you have questions, I am glad to monitor the chat and kind of let you know the questions, Tyler, as you're presenting. So this is a time for students and educators to also ask us questions too. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for joining the Summer Trades Institute with Autodesk and ACE. And Tyler, I know you rebranded, so
newish company, yeah, Integrated Building Engineering. So
thank you, Tyler.
That's our little crew over here. So yeah, let me start sharing my screen. I'll kind of go over the project here, and then I'm going to go over how the files are organized and kind of the model overall and how you'll access it. So this is a good enough size for everyone? Does that look like a reasonable, or should I zoom in more?
Can't see it yet.
Okay. There was a delay. I showed Paulette, so.
Can see it now.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I see the 2-bedroom apartment MEP systems model. And then that is over, it looks like you have Revit open.
Yep. Yeah, if I spread this out too much, it starts looking funky. So I'm just keeping this. But is it big enough to read?
I can read it. I have my readers on though.
All right, keep going. So we've put together a project brief that closely resembles what actual requests for proposals send out for different projects in the construction industry, while also making it tailored to you guys as students to be able to best perform the project. So I'm going to kind of go through this, where you guys are going to be designing the mechanical or plumbing systems for a 2-bedroom apartment. And you're going to be presenting your work to a practicing professional to get real world feedback so that you can start to understand from your computer how things actually get built in real life and the different issues that they run into in the field that are sometimes a really easy drafting or engineering choice away from making a really good design. So this project number is just similar-ish to what you'd see in real life. There's always some sort of code, year, project number, whatever. 25 should be a 26, but mechanical or plumbing for a residential multifamily can be used in Revit. And this is issued by all of us. And we're starting today. And depending on your organization and where you're doing this, it'll either be roped into a camp or we will start a correspondence back and forth to help you guys through the project. So we are going to be doing and focusing on one corner 2-bedroom apartment in this building. But here's what the real world thing would look like. And everything will be built off the actual Revit model and plans. This is illustrative for what you guys will be, roughly what you'll be working with, but don't be like trying to line anything up off this when you go to actually start modeling. So we're in the middle of the project overview, and we'll kind of just go section by section. It looks longer than what it is, but I just wanted to make sure everything was organized by what you guys might want to see when you're referring back to this.
And Tyler and Paulette will be emailing this to students after the webinar, correct?
Yep. Yeah,
awesome.
Later tonight, I'll have everything wrapped up, and we'll be asking for people's emails who need them. And yeah, I'll get
So
into the rest of
no
the
need
file
to
stuff.
memorize all of this right now.
Not even close. Yeah.
Because
No,
I am
this will all
committing it
be,
to memory, but
yeah, I'll be very readily available.
sweet.
Kind of as a before you start, hoping that you guys have taken, if not, you should before that Autodesk Revit course that Kellyanne had emailed out earlier. That's just going to help you a lot with the actual ins and outs of Revit, which I'll show a few things here, but overall, that's going to kind of be your guide, and we'll be happy to answer any additional questions, but working on your own, that course will be a great resource. And we already discussed the purpose. You'll be either choosing mechanical or plumbing and deliver a buildable, well-organized Revit model of that system for the apartment unit in section 2. And ideally, if you're sending it remotely, with a short walkthrough of your work. This is scoped so that you guys can succeed, but also stretch your abilities. So the markups provided will give you a really good foundation and very similar to what we send back and forth in the industry. But there will be definitely some things that'll be left up to your judgment and exact routing of pipes and ducts and alignment of diffusers in the room. And there's definitely going to be some judgment calls for you, but hopefully it's scoped so that you're not feeling like you're in deep water or anything, that there's enough there that you're able to work through it with our help, of course. So this here is the unit. So we have an entrance in the top right corner coming from the corridor. And then there's a little mechanical closet back here, kitchen, island, living area all together. And this angle's tough, but there's a washer and dryer in unit. And a bathroom for the main space. And then 2 bedrooms, one of which is the primary that has a bathroom of its own. And this has more descriptions like that of the different programming of the rooms. And this is what it looks like in a floor plan view. There we go. So your project, which you actually go to plot, will look very similar to this, except it'll be kind of grayed out. And all your ductwork or piping will be coming from this mechanical room and distributing out to properly ventilate, cool, and provide water to the systems of the apartment. So what you guys will be getting is a marked up floor plan that I'll zoom into later on this with your trade. A starter Revit model that you guys will either be able to copy within the cloud or download and work on locally. And then this brief, along with a bunch of other families and things that will already be pre-set up in the model, so that the goal is you guys can hop in and start modeling right away. In many briefs, you end up going through a basis of design that kind of restate a lot of the building information. And this is a good place you can refer back to, for approximate areas, general information on a building or a project. The finished ceiling height is at 9'3", and it's flat throughout. So you can see here in the Revit model, we have these bar joists going across that are the structure. And I have it hidden so we can see the floor plan below, but there's really a ceiling right below that that's going to be right up tight to the bottom. So all of your ducts and pipes will run in the space of these bar joists. So you get 18 inches to play with above the ceiling and below the floor above. And oftentimes you'll see the codes that are applicable to your state or town also listed in a brief like this. And yeah, just a lot of specifics to go back to if you're sending it out somewhere. So on the HVAC side, you're going to be placing the heating and cooling equipment, going to be routing the supply and return ductwork that basically tells the air, sends the air out and pulls the air back in. And to do that, those go through diffusers and grills. So those are the things that you actually end up seeing in the ceiling or on the floor in the building. And the ductwork is usually what's hidden behind everything, behind the walls and behind the ceiling. We do have some ventilation that needs to go into the space, which for this to keep it simple, we're just going to use exhaust fans and a place to bring outdoor air back to the heating and cooling equipment. We'll be responsible for placing a thermostat, which is just a symbol, just a T, just somewhere out of the sunlight. And then going through and tagging and annotating the drawing so that you know that you could hand it off to somebody and they could go build it. Plumbing, similar, but you're dealing with the plumbing system. So everything that needs hot water, cold water, you'll be running those pipes. And then there's sanitary and vent piping, which the sanitary is just a drain that carries the water away. And vent piping lets air into your building so that all the water keeps flowing down, that it doesn't back up anywhere, it doesn't get clogged up, doesn't get bogged down anywhere. So that's the vent piping is pretty important to keep things flowing where you want it to go, down the drain. Then there are fixtures like sinks, lavatories are bathroom sinks. So there's a lot of industry lingo that took me a little while to get used to, but I wanted to keep it in here so you guys get exposed to it. So lavatories are bathroom sinks, and water closets are a really long way of just saying a toilet, and a tub, a shower, and then a washer box.
Sounds very European, Tyler. Very fancy.
The water closet, the loo.
Yep.
Yeah, it is every plumber calls it that. It was a funny convention to get used to. And then a washer box is for like your clothes washer. There's pipes that go there to bring the water into the washing machine. So those will be included too. And to get hot water there, you need a water heater. So that's just going to be a tank style. A lot of you guys probably have it at your houses, but it's about a 2-foot round cylinder, a couple feet high, a few feet high, that will have just an electric heater in it. So you don't have to worry about how it's getting heat, like gas or anything. But then cold water going in and hot water going out. And then some of the things on the more advanced side of plumbing will be drain lines need to slope down so that gravity can carry stuff away. And Revit is really good at that, but it does get a little finicky sometimes. So that's going to be one of the more advanced things that if you can work your way through with Revit, that'll be a really awesome skill to be able to have in your back pocket to be able to work with slope pipes easily. And then the same thing as the HVAC, you'll be tagging and annotating the plans as if you're going to hand off to a contractor. So here are the different areas in which I feel like you guys will really have the ability to kind of stretch. I'm sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around here, just lost my place. So coordination is just a fancy way of saying that you don't want trades bumping into each other. So a duct can't run through a pipe and a pipe can't run through a light fixture. When they actually go to install it, they need to be either on different planes or routed around so that they don't run into each other. So the different levels I'm kind of thinking of this as is your basic level 1 is that if you're modeling ductwork or piping, that you don't hit yourself. So if you run into a spot where 2 ducts cross over, which I intentionally brought in there, so you'd have to think about it a little, you have to go in to Revit and offset up and around one of them to get through. So not hitting yourself is level 1. Then level 2 is going to be trying to coordinate with the structure so that you're passing through the open triangles of the bar joists above. So just like you can't run through ductwork or piping with other pipes and ductwork, you can't run through steel either. And the steel never moves. So that's pretty fixed right there. And then the kind of highest level of coordination I think you guys can get to would be using a ceiling plan and placing your diffusers and grills in a way that looks good with the lighting. So architects a lot of times want things centered or distributed evenly around a space, and placing diffusers ends up being a pretty big deal to them. So if you can lay things out in a way that looks like this is one of the bedrooms here. I'm just going to quickly just draw something, but if you're replacing a diffuser right here, wouldn't really be the best spot. The architects would be mad at you for that. Even if it works airflow wise, it doesn't really fit in line here. And it also doesn't evenly split one of the areas both directions of it just doesn't fit well in the room. So the final level of coordination would be taking this and wherever your diffusers land, just making it make a little more sense and be a little bit more technically or architecturally pleasing. So you'd want it like splitting the difference between these two lights. And as you kind of go through the ceiling plan, you can kind of see where, some other options might be, where if you want it in the middle of the room, you might center it between the grid of these four. Or if you want it on the outside, which is a good HVAC principle to kind of keep the heating and cooling by the windows and the exterior walls where it actually gets the coldest. I was centering it on like in between lights or centered on the window here. And these are just doodles, so these would be smaller, but just trying to think of a basic or a distributed way of laying these out and making it look nice would be the last level. Least important to you guys working in Revit and like the main part of this project, but that's always one of the last details we start going into, so I wanted to include that as well. So making it read well and tagging sheets and everything, the goal is to make everything clean and a lot of times aligned and also have all the information on there. And to help with that, I added some example plans of actual projects that I've done and submitted and actually got built. So there are these examples of how far away we keep text from the actual objects, some of the different text conventions, and just overall how plans look for both HVAC. And then also we do add an isometric view here, which is really honestly one of my favorite parts about Revit, and one of the favorite parts that contractors end up liking is just this one view here, even without all the tags and duct information, paints so much of a clearer story than when you're just looking at things in 2D. Like this crossover here, especially if you're not super familiar with reading construction documents, gets really confusing of, wait, which duct is on top? How's it turning? All this. But when you go to the 3D view, you can see how they're passing by each other. And this would actually be a really buildable and easy to install section of the system. So I'd highly encourage you guys, after you get the floor plans put together, to mess around and try and get a 3D view to look similar to this that you can put on one of the sheets. Then we have this plumbing example too. So we have things that try and line them up, make sure that nothing's overlapping each other. Fixtures get tagged, pipe sizes get tagged. So all of these tags are going to be preloaded for you. So when you go and tag in Revit, either with the tag by category or the shortcut is TG, whatever you hover over should get the right tag and it should look good. So your main responsibility is going to be making sure they don't overlap and that things look nice and organized. And then this is also a little bit more crowded here, spanning between different floors, but this is another great example of the isometric views you can do with Revit that really come at very little cost to make it work. So it looks great. Contractors love it. And yeah, it's honestly been one of the most valuable things that I've delivered to jobs is being able to present things like this that just make it really easy for people to understand. So those are your examples that you'll have to refer to. And this kind of leads into how you'll actually access the project. So Autodesk has a really great platform that's also been rebranded now to Autodesk Forma and their data management, which houses everything about the project in the cloud online. So
Tyler, it's called Autodesk Forma for construction now.
For construction, okay.
But you can also, so ACC is now Forma for construction, but you can also access Forma data management through Forma Site Design. You can also access it through Forma Building Design, but I think Forma Site Design is probably the easiest way for students to access data management.
Okay. All right. We'll probably request you send out a clarifier on that just so that I don't mess anything up going forward. But
you're not messing anything up, Tyler.
The basis is that you guys will have access to all these things. So whether you guys work on it in the cloud or want to download it locally, we'll be sending out a share link that will allow for you to do either. If you want to work on it in the cloud, let me know and I'll add you to the project. And I'll kind of just run through how this is organized now. So the examples just have those two PDFs that I sent you. You'll be able to look at them, but I'm going to take off edit permissions so you don't have to worry about messing anything up. And if you want to mark things up, you can download it and do whatever you want. Then we'll have families that you'll be able to load in. So right now I just have this one, but I was in the middle of adding the rest for the plumbing, and it'll have diffusers and the water heater and toilets and whatever else you want to add, we'll have here. And you'll be able to import those from the Revit screen. And then also the title block will be here too. Then under linked files will be the actual apartment layout that you'll be able to load in, and that'll kind of serve as your background of and your boundaries of where the pipes and ductwork go. And then markups here. This is where you'll actually go to find the files that have all the information that you'll be responsible for modeling and presenting. So I know this a lot of times ends up looking like a lot because it just gets pretty crowded with all the notes. But how I usually try and tackle it is kind of one system or one line at a time. So this is showing all the ductwork for the system. And I would start back here. There's a fan coil here. That's that air source heat pump family that I had in the families folder. And kind of just track down and you'll see 12 by 12 supply air. That'll tell you the size and the system it belongs to. So all of this ductwork is going to run in the ceiling space between the bar joists. And whenever you get to a little symbol like this, kind of looks like a trapezoid, that just shows a change in size. So that's called a reducer. So anytime you see one of these, whether it's on the plumbing drawings or the HVAC drawings, just means like, oh, hey, I have to change sizes here. Things are going to change it up. And then when you come off the side of a duct or a pipe, you usually don't see that little symbol. So you'd refer to the next tag you see. So this one is going from a 12 by 12 supply air. It reduces as it continues on to a 10-inch round going up page. And then as it comes off, you hit a 10-inch round going off to the right, another 10-inch. In air systems, you need a way to be able to know how much air is actually making it to each diffuser. So you have these things in red called dampers. They basically just throttle down the amount of air going towards one branch or another. So that's an easy duct accessory to add in Revit that also makes it very realistic for how they'd construct things. And as you go through, you just kind of keep going down the line, follow this general route. It's going to be up to you guys to draw it in and model it in, and then see if it actually lines up with the structure, and that you can't be, a lot of times I'll start modeling something and then I realize that a duct is like halfway in between one of these. So you'll have to start shifting things around, and that's where some of your judgment will come in. And I just tried to label everything the best I could with an exhaust fan. That family will be there for you. In parentheses, you'll kind of see what a tag would be. So under Revit, the mark property, you can type this in, and when you go to tag it, the right information will show up. And I don't want to get too bogged down here because we could take up a decent amount of time on this, but the general things I tried to keep, like for pipe and duct sizes, you'll get the dimension and the size of the pipe or duct and the system. And then for diffusers, you'll get the size of the diffuser, the type and the tag, and then the airflow. Anything that's kind of different, I try to label. So size, it's a wall cap that actually goes outside. I'll have that family in there for you. And yeah, if you go through all of these, a lot of times what I end up doing is I would download the PDF locally, and then as you go through and do each item, I take a highlighter in the tool and I just cross it out. So then every time I got something that I had the right size and the location for, I just cross it out and work my way through, and then you end up knowing that you're done when you don't see any more red text anymore that's not crossed out. So that's how I work through it on actual projects, and it's tried and true. And it's a lot easier than if you leave it unmarked and then you're constantly going back and double checking. It's like, oh wait, did I actually catch this one? Or you're much more error prone when you don't keep track of what you're doing like this. So pretty simple, just cross out. And as you go through, if you have any questions, especially on these things, like I'm more than happy to, send a video recording of me looking at my model and have you be able to reference it, or emails or calls or anything. So don't be, don't, hopefully you guys don't feel too daunted by this, especially because you'll have the support after, and hopefully I went over enough of generally how to read these that you guys will at least be able to get started. And then the last folder in the project files is student files. So whoever wants to either work in the cloud model or upload, you'll get a folder here that will then be able to, anybody else in the project, any of the other mentors will be able to go in and actually view your Revit file online. So this is the preview here of the template file that I started. That, right? I honestly have no idea. I didn't republish it. That's why. This was a starter file I took from so that I had all the families loaded, because I use this for the template. But normally you'd see that and you'd be able to quick.
As Tyler is getting that ready for us to see, if anyone has any questions, please just a reminder, if you put them in the chat, we'll ask them out loud to Tyler. Or if we can answer the questions, we'll answer them too.
Well, I also don't know. This was that whole the plumbing example. Somebody put a scope box around it and cut down the view, but basically you can view this in the browser. You can't change anything in here, but it's a really easy way for us to be able to review and help you guys, or take screenshots if you need anything. So that is.
There's a question, Tyler.
Yeah.
Is there any difference between using the cloud versus downloading?
The cloud would just be easier to back up and for other people to review, but downloading and uploading, another small benefit would just be you might not have to relink as many things if you are working in the cloud, but both work just fine, especially when you're just working on your own. So that is purely up to you guys, and I'm happy to help with either. So no real downside, just a few slight upsides to cloud working by yourself. And this PDF here is just the basic floor plan without anything on it. So just for your reference, and in that main project folder is also where the project brief is going to live. So everything you need, and maybe we can even link this recording there as well. So everything you need will be in that first page when you look at it, and then everything else you got to go pull from will be the folders further down. Depending on where you're at, like I said at the beginning, your schedule will be based on if you're doing it at a camp or doing it a little bit more independently. This is kind of just here to kind of give a rough idea, where if you had a particular due date for your group, we're there to answer questions, and submitting before review this is pretty generic, but we are starting today. And just your list of contacts of me I have the most information on like the actual files and stuff in here, but Kellyanne with Autodesk is, everything Revit and Access related, and the overall Summer Trades Institute, and Paulette with anything ACE scheduling, cohorts, reviewer matchups, and then depending on your region, the MEP professionals that'll actually review your work and give you critiques. And yeah, that's the whole overview. So I'm happy to continue going through the Revit model if you want. I can show like running a couple of ducks if that helps, or we can leave it open to questions, or Kellyanne, I'll kind of push it back on you if you have any thoughts on where to go next.
That was just Amazing, Tyler. I do, whenever you say ducks, I think of like ducks. So when you're talking
It's
about
because well enough.
so I was picturing
Yeah,
ducks every once in a while.
no, that's a me problem. Yep.
No, it's definitely a me problem. But
Yeah.
no, that was fantastic. And you've just made it seem simple. So that was it. I was not overwhelmed. So hopefully the students are not overwhelmed by it. And just to clarify, so we're going to be sending you all this information. You're choosing between the two options that Tyler has discussed, and also he's going to share this via Forma data management. So you will need to get Forma Site Design. You could do Forma for buildings as well, but Forma Site Design would probably be the easiest way for you to access the data that you need to do the project. So Forma Site Design. And you can get that for free on the Autodesk Education community. And we will send all this information, the links that you need in the email, but just to kind of make that clear. Any
Awesome.
other questions for Tyler or for Paulette or for me? We're super excited to see what you create. What is the tentative due date? This is meant to be a summer program. It's kind of led by your local affiliates. So your local affiliate probably is able to tell you when it's due. Paulette, do you have more information on that?
I don't. The camp is going to be doing it during the camps. I'm not, it looks like Glenn is on here. He might have some updates on his, but we don't, there's no solid dates for it. I mean, before the summer is over, if you're working on it independently.
Yep. And we're happy to see in the chat. We're happy to discuss further with affiliate leaders around implementation. We are happy to support that. Any other questions? I'm super grateful for Tyler from Integrated Building Engineering.
There we go. Yeah.
IBE. It's such a nice logo too.
Thanks. Yeah, the initials are great. The full name's a little bit of a mouthful, but it's
No,
all
I got it now. I've got it.
yeah, no,
And
happy
also,
happy to put it together. And I think this is a great experience for you guys. And I think, it's going to give you a pretty realistic look at actual project work in the field, but keeping it manageable so that you guys aren't drowning. So hopefully we presented things in a good enough way, and you'll have all the resources you need, along with more reach outs as whenever you have any questions. So
and if you're a student from New Hampshire, Tyler and I are on the board of the ACE Mentor Program of New Hampshire. So we would be who you would reach out to for questions in New Hampshire, but also other places too.
Yeah, you can reach out to me for any of the camps. And then it looks like, Glenn, you're three people that you want to talk. If you want to just stay on after this call, I'll stop the recording and we can continue the conversation with you real quick.
Thank you. That sounds good. Mike in the line if you can.
So are we all good, Paulette?
I think so, yeah. So we'll get this. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you for everybody.